morning. Today we made a nice interview with a legend of laparoscopy, but I will say a legend of urology because Dr. Cavussi started his medical school in Buffalo, New York. Then he moving to make his residency at the St. Louis University, where he met another important people in the growing of laparoscopy. In fact, in that experience, he developed the first laparoscopic nephrectomy. After that, there was everything was happening. Dr. Cavussi moving to Johns Hopkins University. He had a great team. At the time, I was working there with him as a fellow. And at the time, he worked a lot in laparoscopy. I saw a lot of PCNL, ureteroscopy. So minimally invasive urology was at the beginning. And after that, he focused on laparoscopy. With the live donor nephrectomy, he was the first to introduce this important procedure for the patient and for the donor. And then after that, he developed the partial, he is a leader in whole laparoscopic environment. I think he's the number one in the world. The legend, of course. So after this brief introduction, we have to start the interview. So, Dr. Cavussi, the first question that I ask also to the resident to help me to make some questions. So as one of the father of laparoscopy, what do you think were the most important milestones of laparoscopy in urology?
So first, thank you so much for the kind introduction, Dr. McCauley, and it is wonderful to see you and an old friend. So I think that the important milestone was actually a shift in thinking. We've always been very good as surgeons at curing diseases, but we put very little emphasis on recovery, cosmetics, the patient's life after surgery. So there was, during the 1980s, just psychologically a shift on patients' part and society's part to start addressing those issues: cosmesis, discomfort, recovery. And I think that's the most important milestone, was societal pushing for this. And that's what allowed ureteroscopy to develop, percutaneous removal developed, and laparoscopy to be developed.
Good. So you think the first milestone was the concept of minimal invasive surgery?
Correct.
Characterize our soul, because we are urologists. We work inside the hole, so we get habits to work through a camera.
Right.
So
the residents today and the people today, I can't. They take it as natural. Of course, you do this. But back in the 70s or 80s, when I was treating patients, when I was just training, it wasn't considered important. And then in laparoscopy, it's been around since the early 1900s. But really, therapeutic laparoscopy began in the late 1980s with the gallbladder removal. And in urology, what the tipping point was in St. Louis at Washington University, working with Ralph Klayman. And this was Ralph's idea. I just happened to be working with him. I was fortunate enough to be his partner in this. When he came up with the idea, was solid organ removal, being able to remove something solid. A gallbladder is hollow, so it's easy to compress and take out a hole. But the idea of taking a cancer and putting it in a bag so it wouldn't spread, and then being able to get it out a small incision, I think that was an important contribution, because after that, then it went to all fields of medicine. You could take out a colon, you can take out a spleen, you can take out masses, etc. And then that led for us to do the first prostate. When we went down to Texas and did the first laparoscopic prostate with Bill Schuessler. And that led to the whole Montessori school of laparoscopic prostatectomy, and then evolved into the robotic removal of prostates.
But this is another story, I will say, about the prostate robotic.
Right, but it began with this. It began with the minimally invasive approach. And it began, if we could do it for the kidney, why can't we do it for other organs, including the prostate?
Yeah, in fact. But I know that you are a laparoscopist, like I think I am. In fact, you mentioned Ralph Kleiman, like that you was so lucky that you met him. But you know, in life, things recur. So I was also lucky to meet you, you know, and you really give me a lot in terms of culture, in terms to be a good scientist, because you teach me to write paper. You know, we made a lot of papers together, and thanks to God, I still contribute with you. So the second question, I want to shift a little bit from laparoscopy. What do you think it's important for you, for a young urologist, to do a fellowship, to start something with another person, another colleagues in another country? This can make more rich this young urologist.
So this is it's a very important concept. And what has changed over time since I was a resident, when you were a resident, the residents are at least in the United States, are operating less. Way back when I trained, very few people did fellowships. We didn't have to because we did a lot as residents. So I did not do a fellowship. I just happened to like stones, was doing stones, so became Ralph's partner doing stones in St. Louis when he came up with the idea. But today, just to gain technical expertise, I think you need to do a fellowship. And equally, if not maybe more important, is, as you mentioned, going someplace else to meet people. And there's nothing that helps move medicine forward than cross-fertilization. So you don't have the same genes going from one generation to the next, and then you end up having children who have two fingers or one finger. You need to have cross-fertilization to get ideas. And it is so important to do that and to go elsewhere, to take the risk, like you took the risk of coming to the United States. I've told some of my residents to go to Europe and to train there. I've not been as successful in convincing them. And so cross-fertilization is important. And it also happens at meetings. I remember when we first presented the laparoscopic nephrectomy, it's the first time I met Jens Rossweiler at a meeting. I'm glad I went there. Jens and I have become very good friends, and you get ideas talking to each other. The whole idea of nerve sparing prostatectomy came from Pat Walsh going to a meeting in Europe, I think in Belgium, meeting somebody at that meeting, and then working together, coming up with ideas. So it's so important. And also later on, when you want to get promoted or you want to get on the board of a journal, you have people from at least 2 different institutions who know you, who can support you and help with your future.
Yes, you was very clear. So it's very, very important to do a fellowship, and especially international fellowship. So we're moving to some other question that I write here. What do you think? We mentioned a robot. What do you think about robotic surgery?
That's a very good question. So what the current Da Vinci system, and there are other robots, what the current Da Vinci system, or the XI, the X, whatever it is, S, or whatever it is, what it does, it allows people who do not have laparoscopic skills, and it's hard to develop laparoscopic, especially suturing, to be able to offer that to patients. So it really doesn't improve outcomes for patients, other than in a given surgeon's hand. However, over the past several months, I've been using the SP robot from Intuitive. They've come out with what's called a single port robot. And it's a very different device on the patient side. It is, and I would recommend folks take a look online and look at it. The way it delivers the instruments is very different. And I think there are advantages to the patient using that system. Now, it's the first generation. It needs some changes. And it's very different than utilizing the traditional Da Vinci system. It has the same console, so you may get fooled into, oh, it's just like running a Da Vinci, but the other end of it is very different. But I believe that will make a change and may even make less need for some other laparoscopic procedures.
Yes, in fact, the SP get the concept or the evolution of laparoscopy, like the LES, the single port, that actually start some years ago, but doesn't get important, doesn't get notoriety because it's frustrating, you cross your instrument, so, and truly do not give too much advantage to the patient, of course, because this is the main important things. So SP make cover these bites, right?
Right, so with the newer systems, the nice thing about it, it goes back to the premise of doing laparoscopic surgery was patient-driven, make it better for the patient. The traditional Da Vinci system doesn't really change that for a patient over laparoscopy. The SP system, I think, will make things better for a patient. Goes back to the initial tenet of minimally invasive surgery, making it better for the patient.
This is the answer also to my other question that was, what will be the future of laparoscopy? Of course, the SP, right?
Well, the future is to eliminate the surgeon, to automate everything so that a robot becomes automated and does it. Because no matter how good you are, a great technical surgeon, I've seen you operate, but not everybody is a Salvatore Micali. And Salvatore Micali is not Salvatore Micali every day. Just like there's some days that we're good and some days we're not as good. And there are studies that show that even the experts are not expert 100% of the time. Sometimes the cappuccino level may drop and it may be a little like this and then come back up. So with automation, you can devise a robot that is the very best Dr. Micali every single second it's working and give the patients the very best outcome. So I think there is a future, and what the future and what residents should look at is automation. And they say, well, it's going to get rid of my job. It's going to get rid of it anyway. It's better that you are driving the truck than the truck runs you over. You need to help move the field forward.
Great, great. Dr. Cavusi, I remember when you was at Hopkins, you was one of the first, to develop and to collaborate a translational relationship with engineer, right? You with Dan Stojanovic, very good friend of me, thanks to you, developed the Eurobotic Lab. So what do you think? This is important partnership. So you suggest to other urology, I will say academic or not, but to get an engineer friend?
So the only way to move things forward, we know urology very well, we know anatomy very well, but most of us do not have an engineering background, and we have ideas. But to create these ideas into reality, we need to partner with people and engineers. And I was very fortunate to find Dan Stevanovic and work with him on some of the early projects. And very smart people exist in your local engineering schools. And I would just what I did there, I just cold called the chief of mechanical engineering, discussed the project, and we worked together to find Dan. So I would suggest locally, you don't have to know anything, but just you'll find like-minded people who want to be creative, create a new world, a better world for people.
So engineer is a good partner. And you remember, you mentioned that I am a good laparoscopy, but I have to thank you. But do you remember when you started to teach me laparoscopy in a telesurgery way? It was the late 90s, with the Policlinico Casilino. And to be honest, I learned from that because we made several surgeries. Now we are 30, 25 years after that period, and telesurgery still have some rule, could be a tools to make teaching surgery easier.
Yeah, so telesurgery has the potential, or telementoring, to be able to teach surgeons new techniques remotely all over the world. And especially now at COVID, where there are limitations in travel. And I think it's going to be a very different world after COVID. People may not, it's going to be a while before people really want to travel a lot. And some people are sick of staying home, but other people have made their homes nicer and saying it's not so bad. Maybe I should stay here, and it's easier to teach somebody remotely. So I think telesurgery, telementoring is going to have a bigger role, just like televisits when we see our patients now remotely. And they like it too. They don't have to travel.
Yes.
Save some money.
Save a lot of money.
And time, which is even more valuable than money. So.
But you promised that anyway, telesurgery, you have to come in Sicily, right?
I'm going to come to Sicily but I'm not coming to work. I'm coming to enjoy Sicily.
Good. This makes me very, very, very happy, Dr. Camusi. So I think, I don't know if we have more time for another question, but I will do anyway. About Italy. Okay, I know that you like Italy.
No, I don't like Italy. I love it. I love it.
Okay, so what changed in Italy? You met me, I met you 25 years ago. You know all the Italian community, the Italian urology. Do you notice some change by all this gap of generation from today?
So what I've seen over the years is that I think Italy's always been one of the countries who was an earlier adopter of technology. There was always an interest in doing new things. But it tended, viewing as an outsider, being very hierarchical, in that there's the capo and then everything else. Now, there always has to be a capo ahead. There has to be somebody. But there seems to be more of a flattening of responsibility that I'm seeing going on, and more and less competition among institutions than previously existed, and more collaboration. And collaboration, again, is key to helping move urology forward.
So the message is be happy, love your friend, your colleague, and yes, make a kind of nice competition, healthy competition.
Because in medicine, we are all in the same boat. We have to deal with administration. And I don't know in Italy, but in the United States, administration has grown tremendously. And we have less and less control over the hospitals, control over what we recommend to patients, etc. So it's important we stick together as friends, and we can disagree on the best approach to remove a prostate or to do a hypospadias repair. That's a part of learning and whatnot. But at the core of it, we all agree that we want what's best for patients, and through understanding, listening to each other, we each learn more. to better ourselves, and as we become better, we can offer better care to individuals.
Yes. So I think this is the good hand of this interview. You starting to attract the attention, to focus the attention to the healthcare of our patient. We have to do the best for our patient. And you finish with the same concept. So thank you very much for this nice interview, and thank you very much to follow my career.
No, thank you and the SIU for this great honor. I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Thanks.
Thank you.